2 coffee urns, catching the exact same hard light. Other artists keep repainting the diner those urns stand in. Film stars behind the glass, a man outside who has just put the window through. One word still comes back: lonely. Did the man who painted the loneliest picture in America actually agree it was lonely? He called the loneliness talk overdone. Then, in the same breath, he conceded he had probably been painting exactly that, without meaning to. 4 figures, 1 wall of glass, a sentence its own painter never quite let settle. Step back, and the whole diner appears. Edward Hopper's Nighthawks, 1942, just over 5 feet wide, oil on canvas. Modest in scale for its fame. The stillness, 4 figures holding still behind glass, is not modest at all. We leave the canvas for a moment. New York City, winter, 1941. Within days of Pearl Harbor, the country went to war. That winter, you saw it everywhere. Bombers heading out, bombs coming down, troop trains filling up. Thomas Hart Benton answered it in 6 weeks, with a propaganda series he called The Year of Peril. Hopper answered it with nothing at all. The war reached the Hoppers' own household anyway. By the following year, no gas to leave the city. Whatever that winter did to the country, it did not invent this kind of picture. The war only arrived the same season this one was finished. Edward Hopper was 59 that winter, reticent, commercially represented, careful about what he let show. He had worked from the same 4th-floor studio on Washington Square for nearly 30 years, and for 18 of them, married to a fellow painter, Josephine Nivison. He rarely painted what was in front of him. Automat, 15 years earlier, an invented interior built from sketches and memory. Night windows, the year after that, the same deserted glow through glass. The pattern runs back further still, to an etching from 1918, already fixed on an empty night. Hopper wanted control over how much showed. He built scenes slowly, alone, and let almost nothing in that he had not chosen himself. It took only decades of being asked about this one for him to finally say out loud what he thought he had painted. 1 sentence, 1 invented room, 1 uncredited model, 1 archivist in the preface, 1 marriage that ate in diners of its own, 5 stops, and 1 1962 book, The Artist's Voice. We'll follow every one of them back to the same 4 figures behind glass. For 2 decades running, Nighthawks had been called America's loneliest painting. In 1962, asked about it directly, Hopper answered on the record. One gallery represented him his whole career, the Frank K. M. Wren Gallery, and he gave few interviews. When he did speak, he chose his words carefully and did not waste them. Talking to Catherine Koo in a book of interviews published in 1962, he said, "Nighthawks seems to be the way I think of a night street." Then came the part everyone since has quietly dropped. I didn't see it as particularly lonely. He went further in that same interview. The loneliness thing, he said plainly, is overdone. Both on the record, in his own words, decades before this film ever asked the question. Let that stand on its own for a moment. The painter of the loneliest picture in America saying plainly that it was not particularly lonely, and that the loneliness talk, generally, was overdone. He was not finished speaking, though. Koo had not finished asking. Here is the rest of the sentence. I simplified the scene a great deal and made the restaurant bigger. Unconsciously, probably, I was painting the loneliness of a large city. 1 sentence. A flat denial and a quiet concession spoken in the same breath to the same interviewer about the same painting. This is not he was wrong. It is not he was lying. It is that only 1 half of his own sentence ever gets quoted back, and the other half gets left in the book. Even careful readers keep reaching for the half that gets quoted. Penny Huntsman writes of the painting's isolation. Robert Hughes writes of its solitude in his own sharp, critical voice. Neither is wrong to notice it. Hopper's own biographer does the same thing in the very paragraph that quotes his objection to doing exactly that. That is not proof he was ignored out of spite. It is proof the habit is real and older than any one careless caption. I didn't see it as particularly lonely. And, unconsciously probably, in the very next breath, he painted the loneliness of a large city anyway. Both halves are true. Only one of them survived being quoted. If it's invented, who's actually in it? We start with the room itself, not the figures yet. Levin says the diner was suggested by a real corner, a restaurant on Greenwich Avenue in Greenwich Village, where two streets meet at an angle. The corner still exists. It is walkable today, an ordinary junction in an ordinary block. But Hopper did not go and paint it there. He worked alone, in his own studio, a few blocks away, from sketches and memory, the way he built most of his interiors. I simplified the scene a great deal, Hopper said of it, and made the restaurant bigger. A real corner. A surviving study under 8 inches by 14, a finished canvas 5 feet wide, larger and stranger than either one on its own. This was his working method generally, not an exception made for this one painting. No exact transcription of a place, he said of another canvas, but something pieced together from sketches and mental impressions. So no single address sits behind that window. There is a real corner underneath it. There was never a real night. Invention, not documentation, built from a place he already knew well, which makes the next question sharper. If nobody was really there, who is it you're looking at? We widen the frame, inside that invented room. Who is she, this one woman among 4 still figures? There is only one candidate, Hopper's wife, Josephine Niverson, a trained painter in her own right. She insisted on it herself. For the rest of his life, she alone posed for every female figure he painted. Levin's account of Nighthawks itself never names her for this canvas specifically, but the practice was lifelong and total, and she is the only woman on record who ever sat for him. They had married 18 years earlier, in 1924, both painters already, in the same city. Look at her hand. She's holding something small and pale, pinched between 2 fingers, raised almost to her chin. She kept her own studio in the same building, in its rear rooms from 1938 on, her own work stacked in them. She stood in for every woman in his work, canvas after canvas, for the whole of that marriage. So what does the record hold about her, apart from him? It answers twice, and the 2 answers sit 4 chapters apart. The first answer is in the biographer's preface. Jo was a devoted and exacting archivist. She kept the ledgers on every canvas he exhibited, sold, or gave away for decades. Where each canvas went, who bought it, what it sold for. That record is hers, not his. Without her record keeping, there is no biography, and without the biography, no film to tell you any of this at all. The second is in the biography itself. She resented the fact that her own painting did not command much attention. 2 facts, side by side, from the same book. She kept the record. Her own work is not in it. Her husband's biographer wrote both sentences. So who really built the record we're using to tell this story? She did. Her name is in the preface and nowhere on the canvas. Look at it once more, closely this time, with no new facts to lean on. The counterman stands inside the brightest light in the painting, white uniform, white cap, bent to his work. He is the only figure standing. The seated couple's hands rest on the counter, close together, near enough to touch. They do not touch. The third customer sits alone, his back turned 3/4 to the street, to the couple, to the glass itself. The glass wraps the corner and seals all 4 of them in. Behind the counter, the same 2 coffee urns catch the light and throw it twice, the detail the film opened on. Outside, the street holds nothing. No cars, no second building lit, no other figure anywhere in the frame. The light spills onto the empty pavement and goes nowhere because there is no one out there to catch it. 4 figures, 1 light, not one word passing between any of them that the paint records. Looking this closely, which half do you think the paint itself supports? Both at once. One more thing the Hoppers did, most nights. They did not cook at home, not often and not by accident. Jo was not fond of domestic duties, Levin writes, and often refused to cook at all. She preferred, in Levin's words, modest meals in diners or shabby neighborhood restaurants close to home. So the painter of the world's most famous lonely diner and the woman who posed for every woman he painted spent most of their own nights at a counter very like it. Not the diner in the painting, most likely, one like it, a few streets over, in the same neighborhood. The myth is a stranger, alone, under bright electric light, aching with loneliness that has a caption to match. The habit is a married couple, forks in hand, at a counter much like this one, because she would not cook. Both are true of the same 2 people. Neither cancels the other out. We return to the whole painting, exactly as it was at the start. A sentence that argues with itself, denial and concession, in one breath, to one interviewer. A real corner, enlarged and invented into a room that never quite existed at that address. A woman who modelled every female figure he ever painted and was never named for this one. An archivist who assembled the record this whole film depends on and barely appears in it herself. 5 stops, 1 picture. Nothing about it has changed, except how much of it you can now see at once. 2 people who ate most nights in the modest neighborhood restaurants she preferred. One of them painted the loneliest diner in America and said, on the record, that the loneliness talk was overdone. I didn't see it as particularly lonely. And, in the same breath, unconsciously probably, he painted the loneliness of a large city anyway. Both halves have been sitting in that sentence for decades, waiting for someone to keep the other one for a change. If he had said it to you directly, sat across from you at the counter, which half would you have kept?